Hello, you fantastic people. Welcome back to Borderlands 3 to my level 72 Gamma Burst Flak build, the all-in-one bossing and mobbing machine. The very best I can put together for you guys. I'm going to start showing some clips on screen so you guys can see it in action. It is not at all a DLC dependent build, by the way. It doesn't use any of Purple Tree. It does have DLC weapons and gear, but that's not necessary. It's not dependent on those, and it'll still work very, very well with just base game items as well. So if you guys don't have any DLC, or if you only have some DLC, you'll be set with this build if you guys want to rock Gamma Burst. As usual, if you guys have seen my builds before, I go through everything you guys need to know for these builds, including the anointments, weapons, gear, shields, class 1s, artifacts, grenades, all that good stuff, Mayhem modifiers, as well as the level 72 skill tree, which, by the way, is so nice having those extra 7 points for this build. Gamma Burst was kind of lagging behind on the damage department compared to Fade Away and Rack Attack builds for pretty much every other level cap. It was amazing for survivability, still is, by the way, but now with these extra 7 points, you get a chunky amount of damage, and it's actually keeping up with the rest of my builds that are like the highest damage Fade Away and Rack Attack builds that I can put together. Gamma Burst is finally in the same ballpark, and you'll love to see it. It can now take on the raid boss, it can take on a Reaver, it can take on both takedowns, of course, and honestly, it makes the takedowns so easy. If you struggle to play Flak at all with survivability or anything like that, this is the easiest build to play as Flak. You now get a solid amount of damage, but now you literally just don't get shot at by anyone because the class mod makes pet taunt everybody. No one's looking at you. You can just run around, do all the damage you want, and no one's going to shoot back, which is awesome. Jumping into the anoints that you guys want to rock for this build, I am primarily rocking the Gamma Burst active 115 bonus irradiation damage. It is really, really nice with this build, particularly in mobbing situations, because you're already doing so much splash damage with most of the weapons you're using. That bonus irradiation damage is really good for room clearing, taking out multiple enemies at the same time, and getting really quick times on the melee 1 takedown or the Guardian takedown, or just any mobbing situation. It's also very good for bossing with the extra damage there as well, because radiation isn't resisted by any boss, I don't think. Well, regardless, any of the ones I took on today had absolutely no problem with that anoint. Other options you guys could rock is consecutive hits on multi-pallet high fire rate weapons like the Monarch or the Light Show. It does only stack to 100% now, but honestly, that's still a very, very good anoint you can rock. Or, for example, next to mags if you want to try and get some more elemental damage into your build. As for the Mayhem modifiers, I would recommend, if you guys are still rocking Mayhem at 10, for the easy modifier, I would go Speed Demon just for zooming around the place, or Big Kick Energy for a little bit of extra damage at the cost of a little bit of recoil and inaccuracy. For the medium and hard modifier, I would go Drone Ranger and Healy Avenger. I go those for pretty much every build ever because they're just so neutral, very easy to deal with, and honestly, by the time you're shooting an enemy, they're not going to have time to regen for either of those two things because Flak is going to kill them like that. And honestly, with this build particularly, all the splash damage you're doing, you take out the drones and the little heart things. Easy peasy. As for the very hard modifier, I would go buddy system because you're doing so much splash damage again. It will take out the buddy systems without actually having to worry about them. Just taking out one enemy will splash and take out the buddy system of the next enemy close to them. And you pretty much don't have to deal with it. All very neutral modifiers, and you'll have absolutely no problem in Mayhem 10. Jumping into the weapons you guys want to rock with this build, I have a full backpack of my favorite weapons to use with this build, but honestly, you can use whatever weapon you guys would like. If it works at Mayhem 10/11 and is viable, it'll work in this build. It's just buffing every kind of damage. It's not a particular gimmick. It's not one select group of weapons. It'll work with pretty much everything. Starting off with the Herald, this thing is incredible. Got buffed recently, and I think a 3-shot Traunt with it. It's like that strong at the moment, and absolutely fantastic for mobbing situations as well. Lots of splash damage, lots of radiation, explosions. It's great. The prompt critical, likewise, not great for bossing, but fantastic for mobbing. The splash damage radius on this, I use sticky mode only with this thing, and is really, really good. The reflux was already good, and then got buffed and is now insane as well. I primarily use it just for the Guardian takedown, but you can also rock pretty much any mobbing situation you guys would like. But it's really good in there because there is so many enemies. The more enemies there are, the more chain, the more damage you're doing with this gun. The OPQ, the cartels are back. This thing is incredible as well. Try and get the highest damage variant you can. It goes from like 22k times 2 to 35k times 2, which is a big difference. Like, the gun's kind of to the gun is absolutely fantastic. So try and get the highest one you guys can get. Got a few extra prompt criticals in here as well. The light show is, of course, a staple for pretty much every build. The Moonfire, this thing is really good, but you have to be very, very accurate. Try and hit those crits and you'll dink all the enemies. The Atlas Replay or the multi-tap couldn't fit in here at the moment, but either of those two Atlas pistols are really good at the moment. The Replay is particularly good in mobbing situations, and the multi-tap can honestly do either of them very well. The Magnificent, believe it or not, if you get a double barrel version, is really, really strong at the moment. I was doubting. Someone in my chat was like, you know, you need to use it. Give it another go. Try and find a ×2 double barrel version. And they weren't wrong. It's really, really good. Try out this one as well. The Redistributor SMGs got buffed with all the takedown weapons and now very, very good again for chaining to different enemies that are close by. The Breath of Dying has honestly been fantastic for a hot minute. But if you haven't used it, if you take out an enemy, it shoots out corrosive bubbles in every direction from that enemy. And those bubbles do insane damage. Like you can one-shot Kraken, you can one-shot Wotan if you line it up properly. You can take out all 3 of the Valkyrie squad. It's good. Try it out. The Monarchs, always a staple with all the builds. Try and get all the elemental types. You can honestly put consecutive hits on here as well. You stack consecutive hits pretty much instantly with these guns. But either way, do a ton of damage. These are the Hermie killers. If you guys want to run the raid boss, use the Monarchs. They're the best option for sure. The Rogue Torg Assault Rifle is underrated. If you guys haven't used it, it's from DLC 4, I'm pretty sure. It's really good at mobbing situations. They're originally like a sticky pellet. When you start reloading, they explode, little projectiles come out and home in on different enemies close by. It's really good for that. The Rebound, a little difficult to use, but fantastic for mobbing situations. It bounces or rebounds off walls and just explodes, doing lots of splash, lots of damage. The Rowan's Call also got buffed recently. Heaps of weapons have, and this thing is back to where it was at the very start of the game, doing a heap of damage in bossing and mobbing. And honestly, if you're hitting critical hits, you can just constantly fire this thing forever because it puts bullets back in the mag that much. And you're also hitting criticals and ricocheting with the Jacob's weapon. Room clearing, fantastic. Bossing, fantastic. The Convergence, I've only got a ×8 fire so far. They're difficult to get, but if you can get ×8, they're also a top tier shotgun. For bossing, for mobbing, they're also good, but you do have to reload frequently compared to other shotguns like the Butcher. Totally balanced, not busted at all. Makes 1000% sense. If you haven't used it, it is one of the highest fire rates. Practically no recoil, tons of damage, and you never ever have to reload, particularly if you're hitting something. Like if you shoot at a wall, you could probably shoot for like 15 seconds and not have to reload. Totally balanced. The Dakota from DLC 3, also really good. Get your hands on those. There's actually a heap of Jacob shotguns that are doing well right now. The Garcia is absolutely amazing. It's kind of like the Hellshock, but like a 2-pump shot thing. I wish they would put the fully automatic thing back in the Garcia. That's like my one wish for this game. They make this thing fully automatic again. You can reduce the damage, I don't care, but if it was fully automatic, so good. The Hellwalker, the one dinking machine, that thing has been around for a hot minute now. Arguably the best shotgun in the game. The Kick Charger is fantastic for one-shotting things from Arms Race. Plague Bearer is fantastic for clearing the Melee 1 takedown bridge or the Guardian takedown anywhere there's a lot of enemies. This thing shines. The Sandhawks are one of the hardest hitting snipers and my favorite 4 Gamma Burst builds. I've got a fire and a corrosive one in the save file for you guys. If you didn't know, there's always a save file in the description you can check out for my PC players. As for shields with this build, there's quite a few options. My particular favorite is the Super Soldier from DLC 6's Vault card, because we don't really get shot with this build. We're primarily using a Red Fang class mod, which means no one's shooting at us. They're all shooting at pets, so you pretty much have full shield all the time. So you're getting that fire rate, ammo regen, and movement speed buff pretty much all the time, which is really nice. For bossing situations, I use a Revolter shield because that extra damage is incredible. 200% extra shock damage, and I believe it's 50% fire rate is unmatched. It's just the best shield in the game right now, at least in my opinion. The Old God DLC 2 is a great option. Bonus elemental damage is very spicy as well. If you guys just want pure survivability and base game option, the Stopgap is one of the best options. An extra double capacity roll gets you 102,000 capacity, which is incredible. And then you also have that 5-second immunity stage once it breaks, which you're pretty much as survivable as you could get. That and a Red Fang, I'd be very surprised if you guys still are downing regularly with it. The Infernal Wish, I only have this in here to mess around with the kick charger. Other than that, I don't really use it because I use multi-pallet weapons most of the time. But if you guys use single pallet weapons, the Infernal Wish could be another good option. As for class mod, like I said, we're using Red Fang primarily because it's a fantastic class mod for mobbing situations with Gamma Burst. Essentially, while Gamma Burst is active, Flak's pet taunts all enemies, aka you are not getting shot by anyone unless they're bugging out, which does happen, but pretty rarely. Pretty much everyone is going to be shooting at pet, not paying any attention to you, and you can do all the damage and have a heap of survivability. Try and get the best passives you can on the bottom of your class mod. I have some very old ones. This is probably my best one. A very good roll at level 65, but most of them are level 60, 57, and I'm pretty sure the one I took out Hemo with, that's literally, the one on the right is the one I took out Hermie, the raid boss with a level 50 class mod. So if you manage to get a good one, they are a little difficult to get Red Fangs, trust me, I know. But if you do get even one good passive on a level 72 is going to beat that level 51 that I used to take out Hermie. So you should be able to catch up. If you get even better ones, you're going to be absolutely flying. As for bossing situations, we're rocking the Bounty Hunter class mod because it's just a flat out stronger class mod for bossing situations. Flak has a 3% chance to activate any purchase hunt skill when dealing gun damage. That is very easy to stack up all your kill skills without even killing anything. You just have to shoot them first. Or throw in Hunter Seekers into a mobbing situation or bossing situation. They'll stack up before you even start shooting anything, which is great. Bosses are also treated as humans, beasts, and robotics for Flak's hunt skills, which also comes into play for a huge amount of extra damage. And on top of that, if we needed even more, the skill points at the very top of the class mod are all damage. Like the one on the right hand side is Most Dangerous Game. That gets you an extra 20% damage and 10% crit damage off my memory. And the one on the left is also bossing related damage. Whereas Red Fang, you're not really getting a heap of damage unless you're talking about the passives. So if you have good passives, you might keep up. But the class mod itself isn't great for bossing situations. It's just fantastic for survivability. As for grenades, we're rocking the Cloning Hunter Seekers. Not only are they strong grenades, they stack your class mod abilities. They stack your Pearl of Ineffable Knowledge if you're rocking that. They're just a great grenade. You also can use any other grenade, honestly, that does damage in mobbing situations because Cloning Hunter Seekers don't stack anything on the Red Fang class mod. So you can use a Gas Coal if you guys would like. You can use an It's Piss grenade. You can use whatever you guys would like to use. As for artifact, we're using the Pearl of Ineffable Knowledge most of the time. It depends on your guys' collection of company men. If you have a perfect company man, like for example, that level 65 one is so good. If you manage to get that at level 72, definitely rock company man for whatever brand you have as a god roll. If not, use the Pearl of Ineffable Knowledge. It will work out better. As for base game, I use the Snowdrift Victory Rush. Try and get the best passes at the bottom there that you can. It is a little difficult to farm, but if you have mag size on there, you're sweet. You can also get an extra little bit of damage out of there too if you manage to roll it. And then I always keep a cut purse launch pad on me for ammo regen in things like the Guardian Takedown. Alright, jumping over to the level 72 Gamma Burst skill tree, of course, using Gamma Burst. The augments, honestly, I mix these around depending on what situation. You can use the radiation aura around pet in mobbing situations. Not great for bossing, though. I pretty much always use this one for an extra 20% damage. It's just kind of a no-brainer. And then endurance is great as well, particularly in mobbing situations. As you or Flak's pet gets kills, you increase skill duration by 3 seconds and pet damage by 10% per kill, which is really nice. Stacks up to 5 times. It's good keeping Gamma Burst open as long as possible because you keep your Anoint strength up. You can also chuck on Burst Aid. I use this in the raid boss situation and bother using anything else because we don't need the survivability anywhere else. But Burst Aid is really strong. 20% of max health per second. You can pretty much stand in Hermes elemental puddles. As long as you're next to that little Gamma Burst bowl, you're regenning fast enough to just stay alive and keep shooting, which is awesome. As for skill points spent, I put 3 points in Persistent Hunter. Again, trying to keep action skill duration open as long as possible. Bit of extra gun damage there as well. We ended up putting 3 points in the end in Ferocity. You only need 2, but I put an extra 1 to get further down the tree later on. Put 1 point in He Bites. You can also take this point out if all of your Red Fangs have 1 point in He Bites, which you can do. I think all of mine except one have it, so I still spent the point. But if you have it on all of your class mods, you can save that point, spend it elsewhere, and you get the buff like my current class mod is doing for me. Get 5 points in Frenzy. Combine these two together, and whenever pet deals damage or pet is shot, it will reflect bullets back at the enemy, stacking up Frenzy. 10 stacks total gives you an extra 40% damage. 1 point in Psycho Head on a stick. Whenever Flak gets a kill, the pet gains increased movement speed and damage by 26%. for 8 seconds, which is really nice. Pet is doing a chunky amount of damage in this build, by the way. We put 3 points in Hive Mind. This one is not necessary. You can spend it anywhere else in the tree, lower up if you guys want. It's essentially just to get down a little bit further. But essentially, whenever Flak takes damage, a portion of all damage they take is shared to Pet, and instead Pet deals bonus damage for a short time by 22.5%. Again, a chunky amount of damage. 5 points in Barbaric increases pet bonuses granted to Flak by 200%. Whatever pet you have equipped has a little passive. That passive is amped by 200%, which is quite nice depending on what pet you're using. 3 points in Pack Tactics. Pet and Flak damage increase by 21% and max health by 24%. Shared Spirit, a little bit more health regen for Pet. Essentially, whenever Flak is at low health, converts 50% of damage taken into regenning Flak's pet, which is awesome because Flak's pet is taking on everything in the game, and if they're in a Wotan fight, they sometimes get curb stomped. Keeping them alive means enemies don't come for us, they're still staying on him, and means we can keep doing the damage via Gamma Burst. I think this is the first time I've literally ever equipped Dominance in my entire life, and if you guys don't like it, don't equip it. I honestly just chucked it on here to mess around with it because I had the extra point, and I thought, why not? We'll try it out. It is fun to use. I don't see it in action too often, if I'm going to be honest, because things just die really quickly, but if you guys want to mess around with it, I'd recommend checking it out. Pebble Tree, ignore it. It's not a DLC dependent build. Green Tree though, 5 points in Furious Attack, essentially shooting things gives you more damage. 5 points in Overclock, increased fire rate, and then again even more after reloading for 4 seconds. We put 1 point in here for Eager to Impress, essentially just a little bit of extra action skill cooldown rate to get down the tree a little bit. 3 points in Turntail and Run Stand Still while shooting, get increased gun damage and fire rate by a chunky amount. Health regen and damage reduction whilst you're moving. 1 point in Lick the Wounds. If we die to a barrel or something stupid, Pet will come back and pick us up. 3 points in Fast and the Furious while above half health, which is pretty much all the time because we're not getting shot very often. We get increased gun damage, pet damage, and movement speed, which is hella nice. The only thing left in this tree that we could use, honestly, is Hidden Machine when we're using the Red Fang class mod, because they should be being taunt by Flak's pet, aka they don't have us as a target. We should get this damage. If you guys want to take out the points from Dominance and Shared Spirit and the 1 point from Ferocity, you have 3 points you could put in Hidden Machine if you guys would like. That's where I took those points and put them in Blue Tree. As for Red Tree, 3 points in Leave No Trace. Hitting critical hits puts bullets back in the mag, means we're shooting for longer, doing more damage, which is kind of the goal. 5 points in Implanetary Stalker, kill skill, increases our damage the more you get kills, or if using Bounty Hunter class mod, just doing gun damage will give us that as well. 5 points in Hunter's Eye, increase crit damage, armor damage, and damage reduction against those individual enemies when we're using Red Fang, but against all kinds of bosses whenever using a Bounty Hunter class mod. 3 points in Head Count, essentially hitting a critical hit will get us action skill cooldown rate. We don't want to be without Gamma Burst ever. So if you run out of Gamma Burst, you're going to start losing damage. You don't have your Annoyance. Your action skill elemental damage doesn't stay up for very long. So pull out a gun that has high fire rate or multiple pellets and try and get that back ASAP via critical hits, or throw some Hunter Seekers as well. 3 points in Big Game, increases our hunt skill duration and skill effects. Hunt skills include Interplanetary Stalker, Most Dangerous Game, Furious Attack, as well as Frenzy and Psycho Head in a Stick. All of those being buffed by Big Game, which is hella nice. 3 points in Most Dangerous Game, another kill skill, gun damage, crit damage, pet damage for a long time. 1 point in Galactic Shadow, very cheap, 15% critical hit damage for 1 point. And then 2 points in Grim Harvest. You could move this anywhere in this tree if you want. It's mostly to get down, but you do get 6% gun damage, 14% pet damage, and action skill damage. I'm still not 100% sure if it does correlate to Atomic Aroma in Gamma Burst, but if it does, lit. If not, honestly, I'd put it there anyways, just for the little bit of damage and pet damage. Then finally, the Megavore Capstone, 20% chance to hit a critical hit wherever you hit an enemy in their body. It's fantastic for just damage, action skill cooldown rate via head count, and Leave No Trace to put bullets back in the mag, and just all around one of Flak's best skills. As for pet choice, if you guys are using elemental weapons, rock the Spider Ant Scorcher. You get 30% extra elemental damage and a little bit of health regen as well. Any bossing situations, switch over to the Gunslinger Jabba. The SMG and a ranged pet will mean he will stack up Frenzy really quickly, and he won't get curb stomped by things like Wotan. He won't get curb stomped by Hermie. He's definitely the best choice for bossing situations. And then finally, the Great Horn Skag gives you an extra 40% damage total, which is very, very nice. So if you're not using elemental weapons, chuck on that for mobbing situations. And that is my level 72 Gamma Burst Flak build. Hope you guys found the video helpful or enjoyable. If you did, don't forget to smash subscribe down below. Click that like button. Both are free. Help me out a bunch, and I very much do appreciate it. Other than that, we have a Twitch we stream to every night. We also have a Discord with awesome people. Feel free to check them out, both in the description down below. Other than that, hope you guys have a fantastic day. I'll see you guys next video and a live stream. Till then, adios.